What's up with the name of the record, Evangeline versus the Machine?
Well, so I think a lot of some of this somewhat started. There's a line in Johnny that's a very important song on this album because of the Covenant shooting here in Nashville. But there's a line in there that says, "Machines control the people, and the people shoot at kids." And what I've found having younger kids is there's so much of our life nowadays that's just so fast and disposable with how we consume anything. And what I've seen is it really rounds the edges off anything we try to do different or creative. That's just not what the world is set up for today. It's not set up for the patient part of that. And so I think that that line is when that title started. But the crux of this is Evangeline on the album plays almost a creative muse, that song. So it's that creative muse and following that versus the machine that makes it very hard to execute that. And that's the juxtaposition of what this is.
When you mentioned Johnny and the shooting, and that was very personal to all of us here because it was so close to us.
Yeah.
And it's probably close to a lot of people in a lot of places because it's so close to a lot of people. It's happening everywhere all the time. The Johnny versus the Devil went down to Georgia, that the song was playing. Like, is that part of the like you were thinking about when you wrote the song?
Yeah,
like, did you hear the song "Devil Went Down to Georgia"?
As I was, my kids go nearby here, and I was, which is a couple miles from Covenant, whatever. And the hardest thing I've ever done in my life is drop my kids off the day after the shooting, because they had decided that that kids needed to feel some normalcy and go back to school. And I remember I've never done anything harder than that when I watched them walk in that school. And both boys go in together. There's a bunch of people out front. Teachers are crying and everything. So everybody goes inside, and I didn't know what to do. I felt helpless, scared, all those things. So I just parked in the parking lot there, and I sat there. And I didn't know how long I was going to sit there. I just felt like I needed to be there. And at some point in time during probably an hour, at some point in time, I looked to my right and I looked to my left, and there were parents that had done the same thing all the way down the line, moms and dads, and they were just sitting there. And I had the radio on, and it was down low. I wasn't paying attention to it, but that one down in Georgia was on, and there was a piece of that in that moment as I'm looking to my left and looking to my right, and thinking about my kids. That Johnny rosin up your bow and play your fiddle hard. Hell's broke loose in Georgia, and the devil deals the cards. And if you win, you get this shiny fiddle made of gold. And if you lose, the devil gets your soul. And I remember thinking, if only Johnny was confined, or only if the devil was confined to Georgia. He's out of Georgia. He's everywhere. And we need Johnny to come back and help. And that was it. And I pulled out of the parking lot finally, and I went home. And I did and some of this may have went to the Evangeline versus the Machine, because there is that Johnny versus the devil, that started that thing, good, evil kind of thing. And I went home and I said it would be interesting if a song was written from that perspective, where you bring back a character from a song we all know from 30, 40 years ago, and he gets to play a different role. And so I wrote Johnny.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm glad to hear that version, or the actual story behind how you wrote the song, because now it kind of all makes sense with the record and even within the song, because you may just see the name Johnny and not understand.
Right.
But do you believe things happen for a reason?
Yes.
Do you believe that you heard that song at that time?
Yes.
So you could have that thought?
Yes.
So you could write this song?
Yes. I 100% believe that.